It sounds like we're just going to get the contours of a decision. From what I'm hearing, they have agreed in principle to grant an extension. So an extension will happen. They've essentially promised that. And their aspiration, at least, is to not have to hold a summit next week here at the European Council in order for EU leaders to actually discuss that they can do it by written procedure. But we are not expecting any agreement today on exactly how long that extension should be. Most of the EU member states think that the 3-month extension asked for in the extension request letter that Boris Johnson sent to them is appropriate, but France and some others are pushing for a shorter extension. What we may end up with, I'm hearing, is a date of November 15th, which would be automatically extended until January 31st, 2020, if there's no agreement by that time. But I'm told to not expect an agreement on a decision until next Monday or Tuesday. That's because they want to wait and see if the British Parliament agrees to hold an election. An election would need 3 months, and so then that would be kind of an automatic 3-month extension. But without that commitment to hold an election, France and some other countries are really holding firm on this. They cannot grant a long extension for no reason. They need to see either a second referendum or a general election in the UK in order to grant that long of a time.
Now, what would the EU, Dave, expect from a 3-month extension, if indeed it was granted?
Well, really, they just want this resolved. Most of the EU 27, they want the British Parliament to agree to Boris Johnson's deal. They worked very hard on that for a very long time, and that's the easiest way to get rid of this as an issue. So essentially, the EU 27 and Boris Johnson are on the same side here. But at the same time, there is sympathy for those in the UK who want to see a second referendum. The opinion here is widely that that first referendum was not democratically appropriate. It wasn't the right question. People weren't given enough information. And so I wouldn't ever expect to see the EU stand in the way of a second referendum. Let's see if the numbers are there for that in the British Parliament. But if that were to happen in the next month, I expect that the EU would extend for as long as that second referendum is needed. But basically the feeling here is the same as it is in the UK. They want this to be over with so that they can move on to other issues. The fastest way for that would be for the British Parliament to agree Boris Johnson's deal, but if it has to be some other way, the EU will make accommodations for it. They will not be the ones that cause no-deal Brexit. That is really, everyone's certain not to make that happen here. But Emmanuel Macron, the French president, is also emphasizing that we can't just keep extending forever, and each extension needs to be for a specific reason. If the British Parliament approves an election next Monday, that would be enough of a reason.
Dave Keating reporting there from Brussels. Thank you. In other news, anti-government rallies continue across Iraq.